Hey guys, got a Premade e-bike review here for you, another one. So if you're interested in my take on Premade e-bike, my unbiased reviews, I don't get paid for these, I never would. Don't trust somebody who does get paid to do reviews. I don't know, it seems kind of like the opposite of unbiased. What is that, just biased? So if you're interested in Premade e-bike reviews, check out my playlist for Premade e-bike reviews. If you're new to this channel, I'm Johnny Nerd Out. I build custom made e-bikes, but I'm just an e-bike enthusiast and I just love all things e-bike, so I do review other bikes that are out there. There's a million bikes out there, and a lot of people are like, oh, how do you know? Hopefully you guys can trust me. I'm actually ridden these bikes, and I put my hands on them. I lift them up. I'm giving you my thoughts on this. Unbiased as possible. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over this bike, and I'm gonna give this bike a score from 1 to 10 on performance, ride quality, initial quality, value for the money, and design. And I'm also gonna do a performance test where I'm gonna test this thing on a really steep hill climb, and I'm gonna see how fast I could get this thing going. So if you're into that, check out this. Okay, so this is the Velowave commuter bike. This bike retails for $8.99. Sometimes they have sales, sometimes there's promotion codes. They might throw me a link below, so take a look at the description, see if there's any links to save you any money. If you are set on buying this bike, you know, might as well save a couple bucks if you can. This bike, okay, right off the gate, it looks really nice. I'm gonna give you an overview and then I'll go into the score. The bike looks really nice. The battery is integrated right here, and this is a really small down tube. So it doesn't stick out very much. It doesn't even look like an e-bike really. It's got a really small hub motor back there. Just from the look of it, it almost doesn't look like anything because there's no display, there's no throttle, there's nothing, which is good and bad. So aesthetically, we get some good points there. Okay, let's start at the front. Okay, so these have got 700C by 25, 700 by 25C tires. They're supposed to be pressurized to 120 PSI, so these things are just like rock hard. So you can see this is almost like a track bike. It's rated as a commuter bike, and I definitely think, you know, this setup is good for a commuter. It's definitely very efficient. This thing only weighs 37.5 pounds it's rated at according to their website, and I believe it. It's not very heavy. So this thing could definitely fly because with these tires, these are like ice skates. It's like skating on ice. There's very little traction, which is good and bad. It's more efficient, but it's also more dangerous. It's got mechanical disc brakes. The mechanical disc brakes are made by Camrose. So they're not Shimano and they're not Tektro. You know, obviously I've never heard of Camrose. They felt good. They felt fine. So I don't know. We'll see how Camrose rises if they end up being just as good as Tektro or Shimano. In 30 years from now, they'll be mentioned in the same breath, but we'll see. 36 volt, 6.4 amp hour battery in here. So that's pretty small, but they are made of Samsung cells, and that is listed on their website. If you ever look at a bike or a battery and it doesn't say what kind of cells they are, they're trying to hide it. That means that they're crappy cells. That means that they're just generic. You might get a season out of it. You might get lucky and get 2 or 3, maybe even 4. You might be lucky, but the percentage goes down if they're not Samsung or Panasonic or LG or whatever. If they're not premium name brand cells, probably not going to last. This battery is not removable, so that was my first question is, man, I hope they didn't put crappy cells in here, because if this thing doesn't last for a year, you're screwed. In fact, I don't even know how you would get, so there is a plate under here that I guess this slides down. So you would just unscrew a bolt here and it would just slide down. There's a little charge port right here, which is kind of nice. There's a little flap here. You unflap it, deflap it, wherever you're at in the world, how you say it. The charge is right here, so that's nice. It's got a cadence sensor. It's got a single chainring up front here, and it's got a 14 by 28 tooth cassette in the rear. It's not a very low gear, although it says super low, 14 to 28. That's a 2-to-1 gear ratio back here from highest to lowest. It's not a super low gear. I'd probably try to swap that out with something better. I think this is like a freewheel. So it has a 250 watt Bafang motor. So, you know, this is like a 260 watt hour battery. So it's puny. Going back to that, it's puny, but this motor is also puny. It's only 250 watts, so it's not going to really draw much of this. So in theory, you should be still getting good range, because this is a very efficient bike. Doesn't require a lot of power unless you live in a hilly area. Then check out my performance test, see if this is going to, you know, meet your needs. But I would still say, you know, this is going to not be using 20 watt hours a mile unless you're flying. This is going to be using 10 watt hours at most. So this is going to get you about a 20 to 35 mile range, depending on how you're riding it. Realistically, it does use a Shimano Tourney derailleur. That's the absolute bottom of the barrel Shimano, but it works fine. Shimano still, even though it's like the bottom of the barrel one, I mean, you're going to expect that for $8.99. It still should work just fine. It's got a rear kickstand here, rear mounted kickstand, which is nice. And like I said, there is no display up here, which, you know, it's up to you. If you want it to look really nice and sleek, that's nice. But if you want to know how fast you're going, how far you've gone, battery voltage, things like that, your SOL, you're straight out of Los Angeles. It does have a little, the control for the whole motor system is right here. It's an on-off button and a plus and minus, and it just tells you in 4 power settings. There's 0, 1, 2, 3 for your different power settings, and then there is a 4 LED bar here for your power. This has got the Shimano thumb. I forget what kind this thing is called, but it's got the, you hit that with the thumb to go faster, and your thumb, it's all thumb work here. So if you're big into your thumbs, you're gonna love this one. Okay, let's go do a Johnny Nerd Out performance test. Just get this out of the way. And this one, I take like a 30% grade, test it out. I also check top speed. This is on full power. Obviously I have to pedal with it to make sure that this thing is triggering. So let's go check it out. Okay, so you can see hill climb from a stop ain't gonna happen. This is absolutely not with a 250 watt hub motor. Plus with these skinny tires, it's not gonna get much traction. But once I started, you know, giving it some speed and I was standing on the pedals, I was able to get up the hill. But, you know, compared to something with a more powerful motor, like a 750 watt or even like any type of mid-drive, this thing is just gonna get blown out of the water. But if you don't live in a super hilly area like that, it'll be fine. Top speed with just light pedaling, I hit 16 miles an hour, or no, I hit 18 miles an hour. And then when I was really cranking on it, I was working on it, I hit 21. So that was not as fast as I was expecting. It is also a little cold out today. It was like maybe 30 degrees. So I know that does affect battery performance, but you know, within 5 to 10%. So don't expect this thing to be a rocket. If you are expecting a rocket, on their website, it says it'll propel you up to 15 miles an hour. So this is definitely as class 1-y as it gets. Can't get any more class 1 than this. So, but if you're looking for something cheap and solid and you're not looking for a rocket, you know, maybe take a look at this. Now let's give it some ratings, huh? Let's give it from 1 to 10. Let's go on value for the money. This is probably the most important one for me, maybe not for you. For $900 for retail, the bike feels pretty solid when I ride it. Like it feels pretty solid. It's not definitely not the most solid bike I've ever ridden, but it definitely is not. It performs better than some of the other $700 or $800 bikes that I've reviewed. Premade one. This one feels more solid. So I'll give it a slight edge on that. For $900, I'll give this a 7.5. I'm going halvesies on this one, only because I'm a little worried about having to replace this battery. It's a low, you know, power consumption. It's 260 watt hours. It's a 250 watt motor, so that's fairly cheap. Other than that, I'd say this is, you know, probably would be like a $300 bike that you would buy, the actual bike, and then so probably $500 for the motor and battery, and that's about it. You know, $600, $900 is what they're asking. So it's nothing crazy. You know what? I'm gonna give it a 7. Okay, we're going 7 for value for the money. Okay, ride quality. This is like ride quality fun factor. I thought this actually performed pretty well. If you're into skinny tires and you're into, you know, just speed, you don't need a front suspension or anything like that, it handled pretty well. I got a little nervous when I saw little pieces of ice on the road because these things are not, there's no tread whatsoever on these tires. So ride quality though, I'd give it an 8 for what it is. It's a good commuter for what it is. If you're a city rider, this will work well for you. I'll give it an 8 for ride quality. Okay, we're gonna rate it on performance now. There's just no guts to this bike. But if that's me, I have a motorcycle background. I build high performance custom e-bikes. So I just want to be full disclosure. This is a 250 watt hub motor. You're not going to get tons of performance out of this. I'd give the performance factor I'll give it a 4.5. Not quite a 5, not quite a 4. This this one will get a 4.5 for performance out of the components here, the motor. Component quality, like what they use to make up this bike. Like I said, I'd value this at about a $300 bike if I was buying this at like a store. It wouldn't be necessarily like a cheap Walmart bike. Definitely not a cheap Walmart bike, but definitely not even, it's almost not even like an entry level, like good bike shop. Actually, I would say it's an entry level bike shop bike. That's what you could get it for, about $300, maybe $350. You know, the Kramus Camrose brakes, never heard of them, but they did feel pretty good. It's got 160 millimeter rotors, front and rear, and the frame is, you know, decent. It's got, I do like that it has the locking grips on it, so you could easily take them off. The grip feel good. So I'll give initial quality a 7. I mean, it's pretty decent for what you're paying for it. For $900, you would expect initial quality to just be kind of, you could see, like, you'd notice a lot more stuff, but with this one, you really don't. Okay, let's go on to design. You got to give it to the design. They got internally routed cables here, and they got internally mounted battery. They did also leave places for fenders here. They got holes here for a fender. You could see mounting holes here for like a good quality fender, and same in the rear. You could put a rear fender here as well. The one thing they didn't put on this was a rear rack threaded bosses, so you can't mount a threaded a rack on here, or at least like a standard one. You could put on one that clamps here, or like like a universal one that maybe mounts on in other places, but it would have been nicer if they just put in those 2 little threaded bosses right here, because they do have them right here. All they had to do was just add them in right there. Dang it. So that's going to lose them some points on design. But other than that, obviously you could see just by looking at it design wise, it's a decent looking bike. I'll give it an 8 for design, only because of this. If this is a commuter, you want to outfit it with a rack and use it as a commuter bike. You know, if you're using this to get to work, you want to put a rack on here, put your backpack on it, put some panniers on it, and just turn this thing, this would have made it a 9 if they had those threaded bosses in there. Now granted, you could drill into this and press fit your own threaded bosses in there, but you don't want to have to do that when you're buying a brand new bike, because you mess it up and boom. I'll give you my overview, my final thoughts and who I think this bike is for. I think this bike is definitely for somebody who doesn't want to spend a whole bunch of money. If you're looking at e-bike prices and you're seeing, $1,700-$1,800, like what am I getting out of that $1,800 bike that I'm not going to get out of this? Well, maybe for that one you might be getting front shocks, hydraulic brakes, something like that, but besides that, not a whole lot. And if you live in somewhere like New York City or a big metro area, this might be a really big seller for you, having an integrated battery where you can't easily get to it, and it doesn't look like an e-bike. It kind of, you see this little hub there, it almost looks like an internally geared hub. It looks like one of those Da Vinci. It looks like a Da Vinci internally geared hub almost back there. And there's not much to steal up here. There's no display, there's no throttle, there's nothing to rip off. You got this little thing here, but that's it. So this is a good, cheap, decently quality built e-bike commuter. I don't want to say a burner bike, but definitely for this price, I would say this is the best so far for this price, under $1,000 that I've reviewed. Quality, fun factor wise, and all that. Yeah, but if you're using this to go to work on, you can't really outfit it with too many things, like I said, unless you want to do this. So this is somebody who's, if you're commuting but you don't need to carry a bunch of stuff, then I would recommend this. I'd recommend the Velowave, the bike water. This is the water bike, because I think you could actually ride this through water. This was designed to ride on water. I can't confirm that though. You want to check with the manufacturer before you buy it, before taking it into water. Okay, cool. So you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you're interested in building your own e-bike, check out johnnynerdout.com. I have all the custom e-bike components and accessories if you already have a bike to outfit your bike into an electric bike. Otherwise, if you're interested in pre-made e-bikes, check out my other reviews. Find the bike that's right for you. Later.